Thank you for joining us on Worldwide Slot Car Chat on Zoom, number 132. The gang is all here with John and Don and Big Dan and Mike and Courtney and Tony and Wayne and Jim and Dennis and Chris and Dewan and Garth and other people. I have a thing to show and tell myself, so I'll get that done first because it's quick and easy. But if you have something you want to show and or tell about, raise your virtual hand. Before we start the show and tell, I want to remind our viewers of two things. If you want to join a live chat, you are absolutely welcome no matter what type of slot cars you enjoy or how you enjoy them or where you are in the hobby. If you've been doing it for 50 years or you just started yesterday, you are welcome to join us. Just Google search Worldwide Slot Car Chat on Zoom, ignore the video results, and you'll find where I post the links to join. The other thing that I wanted to mention is the big giveaway that we're going to do at some point. And I decided to do that giveaway at whichever happens first, either 2,000 subscribers or the next payment from Google, which, you know, the next payment from Google will happen sooner if people actually subscribe and watch more videos. And if you subscribe and watch more videos, you know, we'll hit 2,000 sooner. So, you know, but those things kind of go hand in hand. So, you know, subscribe, like, let the ads play, watch more videos, blah, blah, blah. And if all those things get done, we might be able to do it before Christmas. And I'm planning on tossing in some extra things that are low cost to me, such as magnetic scaled apparatus thing. So I'll buy a scale and make a thing to go with that, and that'll be a prize. A tire chewer reciprocating machine. If you have a tire chewer, I'll toss in a reciprocator as a prize. Maybe we have enough money to get a tire chewer. We'll see. So I think I'm done with all my yada yada-ing. So we'll get to show and tell. And a quick segue, if you are a subscriber, you will already know about this bit of news. But if you are not a subscriber, this will be news to you, which is I am now making a reciprocator for the MSR tire chewing machine, which, as you can see, is very, very similar to the Tire True by Area 3 / Professor Motor, except, of course, the dimensions are different, and it has two height set screw things. I guess if you crank it down and they're both set the right height, then both wheels will be the same diameter if you do it right. Anyways, because things are slightly different than the Tire True, I had to make a new machine for it. So now I have one for the MSR. A MSR owner was kind enough to send me his MSR so that I could do all the necessary measuring and prototype testing and get it to work. And that has already been sent back to him with a reciprocator. But now I'm ready to sell reciprocators to people with MSR machines. I am planning to do one for the RSM, the Overdrive RSM3, RSM4 machine. I have another customer who's going to send me his RSM so that I can do the measuring and testing and make a reciprocator for that, but that's a few weeks out. So eventually we'll have them all covered. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Any questions on this? It's pretty much like my previous machines. You know, nothing big different here. All right, so that share out of the way. Courtney, do you want to get started? All right, take it away, sir.
Absolutely. So we were talking about proxy racing, obviously. And as I sit here, I'm waiting on, of course, I'm always waiting on parts. But I was just painting my Revo slot GT2 proxy car, of course, which is a Toyota. And if most of you follow me, you know I'm a Benetton fan. I've got Benetton car. Most of my proxy cars have some sort of Benetton livery. Then, right before the recording started, of course, I got slot car corner stuff. So G25s came in. So probably sometime during the recording, you're going to see me get up and down. I'm going to put some tires on. I'm going to go test G25s, just putting them on the slotted cars. Thanksgiving's coming. I've got lots of stuff to do. Kids, grandkids, parents, everybody likes to play slot cars, at least at my house.
Awesome. Sounds like a good time coming soon. Thanks for sharing. Anybody got questions for Courtney? Okay, good to go. Mike, you are up next, sir.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm not muted.
Nope, you're
I
good.
have this. I have been looking for this car for 5 years.
You didn't ask me.
It's a Scalextric Porsche RS Spider, and I love both the livery and the fact that it's a Porsche because I'm a Porsche file. And twice I have ordered it, and twice they couldn't find it in different companies. So I finally found one on the forum on HRW, and the guy had it, and it was reasonably expensive. To be fair, I could get it for from Electric Dreams, but $130 was probably more dear than I wanted to pay for a Scalextric car. So I'm really happy to get this, and well, soon to be videoed. We'll see.
Is that gonna be your new pace car? Because those things can go like stink, and they.
Well, I have another one. I have the SX one.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, but I'm not putting magnets in them. So I got to find an appropriate magnet car. And after last week, I'm definitely going to make appropriate magnet cars for each class, so that I can just take the magnet car and put it on. I know about what it's going to do and go from there. We had a few. Well, we'll go on to Club Corner later on, and I'll explain. So,
all righty.
Anyway, that's me.
Okay, cool. Thanks for sharing. I have that car. If I knew you were searching for it, I might have sold you mine, but I guess that's too late now.
I've got 1 plus 6 others of those RS Spiders on Marketplace right now. Probably would have got it for less than what you paid, Mike, but oh well.
Did you have the DHL?
$40.
Did you have the DHL, Frank?
Oh, $40. Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Okay. It would have been 41 or 42 ships. So
yeah,
that's not bad.
No, I thought it was a good price.
Yeah, it is.
All righty. Thanks for sharing. And Don Young, you are up next.
Okay. Back to my junkyard searching. This was a purchase that I got. I'll show you some of the.
That is an interesting variety of parts there.
Yeah, it is.
Okay,
Go-kart driver, but no kart.
Go-kart, WOMP, F1.
Yeah, none of the parts except for what this little bit is here came. Well, this part went with it, but there wasn't enough of this to do anything with. I did not know who made it, so I haven't been searching for stuff for it. And this part and this part is trash.
We can't see what you're pointing at. Your share stopped.
Oh, well.
We saw the picture and then it disappeared. So I don't think I did it.
Is there? Is it there now?
Yep.
Okay. That's was incomplete. This is damaged. They the rear parts back here on this one and this one, for some reason they filed it all out and now nothing fits. So
why did you buy this lot, sir?
Yeah, what were you looking for? What were you looking at in it?
Well, one of them was this piece.
Red Bull.
Now, I already had the car, but the one that I had, this part was missing and the mirrors were missing, and I had a good chassis, which is what this is. So now I've got a good body on a good chassis. So that's what happened with this part. And then I showed you these parts a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all Pro Trek.
Right. Pro Trek, yeah.
Now, this part I found to be very interesting.
Ah,
That's
the
the
old
center-
TSRF. Yeah, yeah.
Center section of a TSRF car, yeah.
Right.
And everybody knows what this is.
That's a womp. Yeah. The
So,
driver at the top right is off of either an Inco or a
Motorcycle.
electric go-kart.
Oh, yeah, go-kart, sorry.
Didn't go for sure. I have that one.
okay. Now, this is where I stand with the TSR.
Yeah.
Okay. Looking good.
And I actually found every part that was missing except for one at Electric Dreams.
Mhm.
Nice.
Now, which was the one that was missing?
The spur gear. So I've got a slotted spur gear on there right now. It works, but the pinion gear has a 64 pitch, and I'm not really sure what the slotted one is.
It's a metric 0.5 module pitch.
What you need to do is take the TSR pinion off and put a slotted pinion on.
Yeah.
That would be
Well-
your easiest way. Otherwise, we'd have to find you a 45 to 64 pitch gear, which would not be too much of a problem.
Well, I haven't been able to determine from the way they list stuff because it needs to be an 18 millimeter gear. And most of the places, when they advertise their gears, don't tell you what the diameter is.
Okay,
A
so
lot of
on
the- Yeah,
Go
the
to
slotteds make 90% of them are 18 mils per year.
well, they make 18s and 19s.
Yeah, but I mean, they do, but tons of them.
But on the TSRF, when it had its 64 pitch gears, it would run, I think, an 11. In the 1/24 scales, they ran an 11 with a 47 or something, and then they went down to the 1/32 scales had a 45 in them, as I recall. I might actually
Well,
have some of those gears lying around here.
The pinion gear is like 14 tooth.
Is it a nylon pinion or is it a steel pinion?
Steel.
Okay.
Hang on until next week, Don. I think I have a bunch of those. If I have some, I'll send you some.
Yeah, I've probably
Spur-
got
spur
some
gears.
if need be.
And
I don't know that
then
I've got any new ones, but I've got a couple.
as far as the Parma goes, I'm this far with that one. And I do have the front wheels for it. I just haven't put them on yet. So. And that's pretty much an update on rebuilding a pile of junk. And that's
Oh,
all.
you get some good runners out of that by the time you're done.
Well, I hope so. And the Parma, I've got a home track motor in it. I didn't put a Death Star in it or
Hell no.
Super Duty. They don't do
Actually,
too well on the track.
Death Stars these days, well, up until just a couple of weeks ago, Death Stars you could actually sell to people if you had good ones.
Yeah.
But now, of course, Roger Schmidt at Mid America is actually remanufacturing those.
So whoever is next.
Yeah, good news to people who want those motors, I guess.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing, Don. And Brian has his hand up. Go ahead, Brian.
Okay, good afternoon. I don't have a show this week, but I've got a weird tell, and I'm not sure what's going on. It's affected about a dozen of my cars, my NSRs, a couple slotteds, a few sideways. And I think Mike had this problem not too long ago, but the magnets seem to be disappearing out of them. And, I'm not quite sure what's going on. They seem to
They're
be
on the
performing-
refrigerator.
They seem to be performing just fine, but the magnets are
Madness has
disappearing.
gotten in.
Crazy.
I burnt some sage. I swung around a few dead chickens, and it still seems to be happening. So, not exactly sure what's going on, but I'll keep you guys posted. And now, see, I can't even find them, Mike. So maybe they're all migrated there.
Is that just for one car, Mike?
No,
2 cars?
Mike's magless now.
maybe 3.
Wow, Mike went magless, and now something's happening to Brian. He's going crazy.
Again, I'm not sure what's going on. Like I said, I burned some sage and swung some dead chickens around to see if I could stop this, but I'll have to let you know next week if it's had any luck. That's it. That's all I had.
It's a topsy-turvy.
You don't want to stop it.
The
All right.
force is absent.
What was that, Mike?
The force is absent.
The force is absent. Yep.
The magnetic force is absent.
Yep. All right, looks like we're done with show and tell. Does anybody else have anything they want to show and tell?
I got one.
Take it away.
Okay. Last week, Dennis showed some monogram 132nd scale F1 cars. And as they were right out of the box, which was great. I have them right out of the box as well and love them. But I did a couple up for a couple of recent proxies. And that was the Ferrari 158. So I had to.
Nice.
This,
The sharpest eyes amongst us will note that those are not the original wheel inserts, but
no, not original
those
wheel inserts.
those are the Atlas wheel inserts, which are much closer to correct than the 6-spoke ones that Monogram used to use.
I had to add suspension bits, and the molded in intake trumpets were filed out in aluminum ones. This has a different rear transmission and aluminum pipes and a bunch of other little things as well.
Is it lower?
Where did you find the trumpets at?
Sorry?
Go, Frank.
Where do you find the trumpets at, Chris?
The trumpets?
Yeah.
Just go on eBay or Amazon or whatever and look for uninsulated ferrules. And you can find little kits of them with. I bought one. It probably had 10 different diameters and different lengths. So I can go from little 1.5 liter engines right up to great big honking Can-Am things.
I'm looking for those for this car.
Yeah, those are all. And where are we here?
A little square.
And this one, this is the Lotus. I changed this around a little bit. This again was for a proxy. And the Monogram kit ones has the 2 plastic exhaust pipes high mounted coming out of here, which the car did run that way. I figured for a proxy race, having great big long flimsy plastic exhaust pipes sticking out of the top of the car at the back wouldn't last too long. Luckily, the Lotus 33 also ran with low pipe, so I made some aluminum ones for the bottom here. And they both run on chassis. I did not use, since this was a proxy and it was a more competitive proxy, I had to come up with something a little bit different in the chassis wise. So I did get a couple of Bear Dog chassis years ago from Chris Wright, and I decided to hack those apart. For my liking, his chassis, this rail here was all one continuous piece. From my perspective, they were a little bit too stiff torsionally. So I cut them, put in a hinge tube in the center, and then I've used some very thin torsion bars on the outside. We also had to have springs and shock absorbers in this thing, so I had to come up with little springs and shocks. They do not work, obviously, but just aesthetically, they had to look a little bit different. That one was under the Ferrari, and then a little bit different, a variation on a theme. This one actually worked extremely well. This one was the chassis that went under the Lotus. So rather than do a hinge tube here, I cut the whole center section out, and this brass pan floats on some really, really thin wires, which still gave me a lot of torsional flex in the chassis without buggering the whole thing up. So, and I'm proud to say both of the cars won their respective proxies.
Congratulations.
Of course they did.
We wouldn't expect anything less.
Well,
Yeah, don't come at us with no non-winning cars now. We expect top winners all the time from you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for showing that, Chris. Beautiful work as always. And Dewan has his hand up. What would you like to share today, Dewan?
Oh, I got another acquisition. I don't know. I have this obsession buying more and more stuff. Let's see.
My
You need
name
a
is
warehouse
Dewan.
to
I
store
am a
it.
slot car addict.
Yes.
Let me see. There it goes.
He's gonna have to
Okay.
build a warehouse just to store all his stuff.
I think I have 35 sets of Revell and Monogram stuff. I mean, it's the full sets. I don't know what I'm gonna be.
Okay, that's wrapped in plastic, right?
Yeah, I actually just did this right before the beginning of our chat. I just got it last night and I just opened it up today. Where's my little, there it goes. Okay, so yeah, that's what it looks like.
Wow.
And I got this because I couldn't pass it up. It was only, it was literally, when I saw the auction, it was like an hour left. It was going for $47.
Oh man.
And except for
Yeah.
the tape tearing over there, the box looks great.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
Little watermark there too.
But the real key component in there that was the crowning jewel for it all was this.
Oh,
Two
wow.
cars.
Wow.
I got it for 90. I didn't pay $90 for the whole
Super
thing plus
smaller.
the shipping, but still, I just said these were going for. They don't have the exhaust and there's several things missing out of them.
The exhaust and
shields
the
and
screens. Yeah.
Yeah, screen. But I could work on that. But for
Yeah.
getting two of these, I just couldn't pass it up. So
Yeah.
that's what.
Nice.
Yeah, so I'm gonna work on those and get them going. I just
And now
took
you
these
have-
pictures like 5 minutes ago.
Now you have 3,020 pieces of trash.
Exactly. Okay, that's it for me for right now. I think that's all. Yeah, that's it.
Very cool. It's always fun to get a little bit of history, even if you've already got most of the history.
Yeah.
Okay, so thanks for sharing, Dewan. And if there are no more
Oh.
show and tells, then we can move to Club Corner. So if you have a club
Oh.
activity you'd like to share, because it
Okay.
was more than you just racing by yourself, now's the time to talk about it. Mike's trying to put his hand up. Go ahead, Mike. You don't have to put your hand up. There you go.
Okay, too late. I got it up.
Yep.
The weekend was the return of the third guy.
Yeah.
Shiggy showed up and we had a great time and he beat me twice. One of them was a sort of a Lewis Hamilton type thing that I was stymied by the situation, so to speak, because we had a computer glitch that sent us off into the weeds and he went further ahead at that point, and that was the race. So I got back, and got within a foot and a half, but that was it. But other than that, we really had a good time. Close racing all the way around. We had a lot of the three races. They were seesawing back and forth with the winner all the time. So it was good fun. Had a great time.
Yeah, I watched a couple of the videos, and the ones that I watched, anyways, you guys were just all right next to each other for laps. It was pretty wild, pretty cool.
Yeah, it was pretty good racing. So,
All right, good stuff.
and the cars were all close. So, because
even
I set them up so that usually I'm at a disadvantage because I have more track time than those guys. So, I'll generally take the slowest car. But this time, in fact, the one qualifying, we were within a thousandth of a second between the two of us. And the other one was only a tenth behind. So, everybody had a chance. It was nice. So good fun.
Yeah, it's always good to have another guy on the track. Good deal. All right, thanks, Mike. And Jim, you're next.
Well, let's see here. This is a little half and half between Show and Tell and Club Corner. Fast Track Hobbies in Rockland, California, just outside of Sacramento, had their 20th anniversary, spanning 4 locations last week, and they had a big party. And so they had, this is Fast Track. It's in Rockland. It's in a little strip mall, but it's a good size slot car / hobby store. All things being what they are, the RC stuff keeps the place in business. So it's the size of probably a small supermarket. So it's a lot of square footage. They have 3 tracks, talking about the slot car end of it. They have a huge inventory. They have a little bitty mini museum there with some of the older stuff, but they've got, got 24 scale, they've got HO, they've got 32nd scale, a little bit of everything. And then the main thing that we're interested in is the tracks. Kinkelman is pretty straightforward. Purple Angel is, I think, from what he said, one of 2 that are in existence. It's a different kind of bank track. And then the Yellow Dragon is a very special track, or a custom one of a kind. If Bob Scott built it or Bob Scott refreshed it, but he had something to do with it. So that's what we race our 32nd scale on, is the Yellow Dragon. I've run a little bit on the Kinkelman and quite a bit on the Purple Angel back when I was running 24 scale. The tracks were open to the public for free. Their rental cars are up on the tracks, and everybody got into it, from this age to that age to whatever. So again, it was a 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. They're only open until 7 normally, but the party was open from 4 to 9, and the place was packed. There were lots of people there. So the tracks were open all the time for free. They had live music. And so Dwight Adamson is the owner. He put a lot of time and effort and money into this. They had $2,000 in raffle prizes at the end. They gave away, one of the local radio stations was there. They gave away Christmas tree ornaments. Those are the E-Flight and the car. Those are Christmas tree ornaments they gave away free to everybody that came to the event.
Is that Steve?
Which
that looks like Steve Neal holding the little airplane.
No, it's a friend of mine, Larry Stevens.
No.
The local guys were there, the local 24 scale guys. So we had a great time visiting and telling everybody how fast we used to be, that kind of stuff. And darn if a slot car race didn't break out. So they had an IROC race towards the end of the evening, and Justin Colvin, multi-time national champion, was there helping run it. Fortunately, he didn't race in it. But the local guys, and I was included in the local guys because we're doing the 32nd scale racing there. And I upheld the 32nd scale honor, so to speak. So it was an absolutely great time. At the end of right towards the end of the event, the mayor of Rockland gave Dwight a certificate on 20 years of business. This is the 2nd location in Rockland. The other 2 were in a different city. So he's been in business for 20 years and about 10 or so in Rockland. And so it was just an absolutely phenomenal event. Like I said, spent a lot of money, a lot of time and effort into promoting his hobby shop and promoting slot car racing, because Dwight is a slot car racer. That's the reason this place exists. If you want to draw the analogy, it's a little bit like Ferrari. He sells RC stuff, support the slot car tracks. And so he's a great ambassador for the sport. It's a great hobby shop. Not too many have been around as quite as long as he has. So I want to congratulate him on 20 years, and it was a great event.
Very cool.
I noticed the 5th track whilst you were showing the pictures, and it wasn't the slot car track. There were hoops hanging from the ceiling, I noticed, and that is a drone racing circuit.
Yeah, they do drone racing there because it's, in terms of the the revenue, it's primarily an RC place with cars and planes and you name it. So they do drone racing there as well.
I've never seen that done. Very intrigued.
Sounds like it. I've seen some drone racing videos. That's some pretty intense stuff. But yeah, it looks like a fantastic place. I wish I was in the area, but I'm spoiled for choice over here, so I can't complain.
You can be. It's not that far away.
That's true. Thanks for sharing, Jim. As always, great presentation. And Dewan is next.
Okay. Am I still?
You're good.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, good. Great. I'm sorry about that. You guys may remember just about a year or so ago, well, a little before the holidays, I had a little project going on where I was creating the Speed Racer and Racer X and trying to acquire and get all that stuff together for an associate of mine that kind of showed an interest in getting into the slot car. Well, he was intrigued about me being in the slot car thing, and he just expressed how he was, such a big fan of Speed Racer. And so I decided to, unbeknownst to him, create a little gift basket or whatever, which was a whole renovated Revell set, and I replaced the cars with the Speed Racer Mach 5 and the Racer X Mach 10 or Mach whatever, it's Mach 9, I don't know what, I can't remember what it was. But nonetheless, he was ecstatic when I brought it to him a little after the holidays. And but he didn't have a place to really put it up. He's battling with his wife on setting it all up. And I think he did attempt to set it up once or twice, but nonetheless, he paid a visit to me this week. Actually, yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. And brought along with him his cars. And so put it on my track.
Nice.
And so they're 124. They're trying to be 124s, let's put it that way. And I put up against my oversized 132 Batmobile, and we had a little race that came out of it, and it was pretty nice. My little navigator here. And so that's us setting up and getting ready for the race and all that. And my little test track as it exists, and the little cars that we have going. And I could get, what was that?
Little? That's a pretty big test track.
Well, the final version is going to be about 5 times the size of that. Well, yeah. Actually, yeah. So
everything is relative.
Yeah. So anyhow, but I couldn't get all the pictures, so this is just let's have just a few, just to kind of just show what we kind of went through, and yeah, that's just the starting gate. And I think that was, yeah, that's it. And then we did another fantasy DeLorean. I haven't given some DeLoreans in the TV car race rather. So I had the kit, and they had the 2 DeLoreans. So we just did a little race. So it was just nice. That's all.
Yeah,
that's it.
Good times. That's awesome.
And the guys, yeah. I actually went to engineering school with his brother, and he was visiting from Argentina. He moved to Argentina after we got out of engineering. We were working at Lockheed for a couple of years, and he got a nice position. And so he just came by from Argentina to visit, and they all came up. So it was great.
Good stuff. It's always good seeing friends and mixing in some slot car racing.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for sharing, Dewan. And Big Den, you are next.
Good Wednesday to you folks, and good Thursday to me. It's amazing, just before I get going, it's amazing what you hear when you're not sort of really focused. I wondered when Chris was talking about making the trumpets for one of those F1 cars, I thought, what the heck are onion slated ferrules?
They're smelly.
They make you cry.
Let us know if you find any.
Well, I cried when I worked out my faux pas. I thought, what's he talking about? Onion, some special Canadian thing, onion slated ferrules. I just couldn't work.
That is the most accurate description of a Canadian accent I think I've ever heard.
Yeah, so my report this week is sort of bittersweet. Whoops, I won't let us share here. It's bittersweet because it was our last race at the venue known as Grumpy's Garage. There we go on. There we go. We're up. Yeah. So our host KC is moving to a northern state. Sold his house, moving about mid-December. So we pulled out all the stops and got a great lineup of 10 people for the last roundup at the garage. So I'll just take you through the sequence there. Now, is that long since I've done a race report? I can't find my way. Oh, hang on, I've got a little message coming up in front of my thing that pushes at me to the next. Yeah. So we started off with NASCARs, and it was sort of a bit of a mixed bag. The 53 car that did all the winning at the front there was on a brass chassis because the chap had sold all his regular NASCARs because the club he races with doesn't have that class anymore. So he didn't win by all that much. So I had loaned the car to one of our recently retired racers. So he did the most offensive thing he could and actually beat me. So
that's what you get for loaning your car out.
Yeah,
yeah, they have a habit of doing that, don't they?
And the controller as well, I might add. But yeah, so there was the results, and I had pretty much a horror run. I tried to run a car in the first bracket or the first heat that had major guide problems. So that's my excuse. Even though there is no crying with slot cars, I was pretty much crying. So we then backed up with DTM cars. Again, I loaned someone. I loaned two cars in that bracket. Yeah, this race I loaned the silver Mercedes and another Mercedes at the back, which was a Carrera. So I mean, I didn't expect anyone to do too much damage to my score with that anyway. So another look at those. Again, 10 was a good turnout, and I was a bit closer to most of the action there, but still not anywhere near the front end. So giving away on all my good cars again. And we finished the day with slotted Group C cars and one interloper there. I think there's a Nissan 390 somewhere towards the back of the field. A couple of the cars finished with that wasn't the blue car on the second row. Didn't run a special wing configuration. It just that it fell off and they put it on the top for the photos though. And another look at them there. And happier times this time, so I did manage to get on the podium. So that was it. Then moving now to what the guys have been doing down Hobart. They've been running vintage NASCARs. So I joined them on Tuesday night for a race. So they again a pretty good roll up there, 369. I don't think all those cars raced. There's 16 cars there, but some of them were spares and loaners.
Yeah, well, the bloke travelled down from Launceston and didn't get his car finished, so he had to run a loaner on Tuesday night, but he'll remain nameless at this stage.
Yeah, you haven't got a beer there, have you, Phil?
No, you drunk them all.
Right, so yeah, in lieu of Phil not putting his hand up and prepared a race report, I'll just show he did actually win something, I think, there in the first round. Is that you winning there? Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
So then just a shot of some of the cars. This one, it's just the owner has decided to put a couple of red dots on the car because there is another identical car running. Is that the car I ran?
That's the car you ran, Dan.
Oh, okay, that right, good. Yeah. I got short-term memory problems.
You must have drove it without watching.
Yeah, probably inhaling too many onions, slated ferals or something like that.
I've got boxes of them here for you, mate. I'll get you some out next time you're down.
Okay. You could peel them.
Just one of many guys, it'll cost him 3 or 4 laps per lane.
I wouldn't score anything then, Wayne. That's about as many as I do and eat. And then the other class they were running down there, but not on Tuesday night, was the fly truck. So again, a healthy turnout there, just row by row. And I think that's the podium, and I'm not sure who won. Was that you again, Phil? Or
yeah, that's my Black Monster.
Black Monster, yeah. I think that's about it. All I can say now to end is track is clear. Track is clear. Watching too many of Mike's videos.
Yeah,
Right,
you got to get used to that sound when you're racing with that software.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for sharing us your activities, Big Den, and all the great pictures.
Before I sign off, I might say that the track that it's not being lost to the world. The track is being bought by in partnership with the guy who started the track we now call Lagana Seca, just a suburb, and he's going to move his tracks into the bigger of 2 sheds he's got on his property. So he's going to have 2 tracks side by side. It'll be nearly as big as Fast Track Hobbies, I reckon, by the time he's finished. So, but I don't know whether I've got another 20 years left in me. Thanks, folks.
Well, it's good the track isn't disappearing too. That's always sad to see a good track go. All right, Wayne, you're next. We've got just enough time for you.
No, that's a very quick one from me today. Bearing in mind that this is past, present, and future slot car races, I just thought I'd mention the fact that entries for this event, can you see my screen?
Yep.
Good.
Double
have opened. And I know that there's not just myself, but there are several regulars amongst the chat that are making arrangements at the moment to attend. This event takes place next January, and it's a typical double disc event where we run the GT3 cars on the Saturday and World Endurance for the Sunday. The GT3s run for 90 minutes twice, and the 6 hour is another team event. So yeah, I've placed an entry. The entries are opened the 1st of November, I think it was. And within a day, there were 16 entries within 24 hours. I think that's the maximum entry. So we're looking forward to a trip, a little flight abroad. Going to meet up with Henry, amongst others. And we'll tackle this event and see how we go. That's all from me.
Oh my God.
Can I ask a question, Wayne?
Yeah, sure.
Are you going to be staying at the Henry Hilton this time?
Well, things are changing this year. I have been in communication with Henry, and he's told me that he doesn't want to bring the camper this time. He thinks it might be too cold in January. So I've been making not just flight arrangements, but hotel bookings. And it looks likely that I've rented a barn conversion that's got 7 beds across 3 rooms in there. And I've reserved all 7. And at the moment, I am filling that up with racers. Nice. So we'll have a proper busman's holiday with, no doubt, eating together and getting back to the room. And I know the place because I've been there before. It's got a large kitchen and dining area with couches and TV set and all the rest. We won't be using a lot of that. We'll be all sat around the table having chats, post-race analysis and what we're going to plan for tomorrow and all that kind of stuff, and bring your beer. So that's what we're looking for.
Okay, great.
Good times.
It's going to be good. It was good. I did it for the first time back in May, and it was postponed to May this year because there were international travel restrictions towards still in existence at the beginning of the year. So the event was moved until after those restrictions were lifted. And so I've done it the once and enjoyed it very much. The circuit is the Suzuka circuit, which is a 6-lane digital Ninko surface, which is a familiar surface, but it was a very complicated circuit to learn. Lots and lots of turns, lots and lots of combination complexes. The Degner curves, if you're familiar with the circuit at all, they're quite challenging. And it's got elevation in it. So there's certain corners that you think you can go as quick as you want around them, but you can't really go as quick as you want to because there's a crest in the corner, you know, and you go from climbing approach to a descending departure. And it's very easy to get that one wrong. So yeah, it's an entertaining circuit. It's one to learn it the first time and then go and try and be competitive the second. And that's what we're going to go and try and do. Cross your fingers for us. Lots of preparation ahead.
Looking forward to seeing your car and what changes you make and all that jazz.
I've no doubt I'll produce some content at some point.
All right,
but my YouTube channel, which you mentioned.
Phil put his hand up. Did you want to talk about some club things, Phil?
No, this is just a very quick update. I've just opened my email to find a couple of test files in there from Vlad with a Datsun and a Volvo to fit on the Revo chassis. So I just thought I'd pass that on and I'll open them up later in the day and give them printed out and see what we've got in there. We've been working together. I've sent him some files and that of the chassis. So he's knocked something up there.
Feel free to pop them in your slicer and share your slicer screen to show the models off if you want.
I haven't even opened the emails at the moment, okay. Paul. So I'll have a look later in the day.
Okay.
Someone kept me up last night, the night before, late drinking beer. So
you just went ahead and stayed up for the show, for the chat.
Yeah. So no, I'll post something next week, hopefully.
Okay, cool, awesome. Cool. Looking forward to that then.
Mm.
So if there is no more club activity that anybody wants to talk about, go ahead, Dennis.
Dennis.
And we'll get to Chris.
Sorry. Yeah, I don't have fancy presentations like Jim and Big Dan. 11 of us braved the rain and cold in Southern California on Monday night. We went down to a friend of mine in Lake Forest, which is a couple of towns over from where I am, about 15 minutes drive. He has a little 3-lane track in his garage with magnetic braid, and he runs all magnet cars, and he runs a very kind of different race program to anything that we normally used to. Excuse me. He provides all the cars. He selects groups of 3 cars at a time, and when everybody gets there, the first thing we do is we run a series of 2-minute heats. Everybody runs a 2-minute heat on each lane, and we rank everybody by the totals of those, of your heats, laps and sections. And then once we've done that, then we create teams of 3 drivers. And obviously you take the fastest guy and the slowest guy and one guy in the middle kind of thing to make the teams. With 11, of course, there were 3 teams of 3 and 1 team of 2, but it worked out okay. Then what we do is we then run with a different set of cars that he provides, like a mini endurance race. It's 8 minutes per lane, and the teams are 3 drivers, so each driver gets a lane, 1 lane. So within the team, you have to decide who's going to drive which lane. And then the 8-minute heat is interrupted halfway through, and he changes the cars. Takes the 1 car off that you've been racing for 4 minutes, puts another car on that you're going to race for the next 4 minutes. All right. And that's how it goes. And the cars stay on the lanes. So the drivers, the drivers change. Anyway, it's amazing how close those races get, right? Because you're running now 24 minutes total 8 minutes a lane across 3 lanes. The winning team did 324 laps. The second team, 325. The second team did 324. The third team was 314, and the fourth team was 313. So they're pretty close. A lot of good fun. And once that's all done, that's the big deal for the night. But then after that, we do a last man standing kind of thing, where we start with the bottom 3 from the original qualifying, the bottom 3 guys. The slowest guy gets lane choice. The next guy gets the next choice. The next guy gets the remaining lane. Now you run 2 minutes, just 2 minutes on one lane. But at 1 minute, you stop and change the cars. Now, and this one, we raced those Carrera milk trucks, those milk truck tanker things. The first minute you run one of the little tanker trucks. The second minute you run one of the drag trucks with a big wing on the back. And they're actually a little bit different, but that racing becomes then don't fall off, because this is sudden death, right? Whoever wins that first heat of the bottom 3, he gets first lane choice against the next 2 above that. And so you go up and up and up. And if you keep on winning, you keep on getting first lane choice until you get to the top 3 guys. And then from that, the winner is the last man standing. So much fun. Really.
The guy at the back of the field who won a heat, he gets experience of the 2 cars, and then he gets lane choice, and he's got experience of 2 cars, and so he does well again.
Correct.
And
But
so
eventually you get to a point where you run out of talent, or you run out of something, right?
Of course.
I mean, the thing was, the guy who won it, I think he qualified like 6th originally out of the 11. So he didn't run in the first 2 heats, but then after that, he moved all the way up, right up to the top. But it's interesting because it's a 3-lane track. It does not have a crossover on the track. So the inner lane, the red lane, is a deal shorter than the outer lane, the blue lane. But you can win from any one of the 3, depending on how you like to drive and how you drive the particular lanes, because the inner lane being shorter, right, it's good, but it's tighter, but it also doesn't get as much traffic. So if the guys come off somewhere, then very often the inner lane is the one to be on. I always choose the inner lane. I happen to be pretty good on that lane, but this time around it didn't pan out for me, but it was a lot of fun. And despite the rain, he had the track's in his garage. And then he puts up a big canopy outside, just right outside the garage, that has space for everybody to be. A lot of fun. We do that about once every 6 weeks or so.
Perfect. I was going to say, I don't have any pictures. I'm going to take a video next time we have these. But we had our first Eurosport 24 scale race in quite a while. A bit scary if you haven't driven them for quite a while. It's quite something. We had quite a few guys from Canada. We had Tom Adams and George Russell come up from the States for the race. I really need to take a video and show you guys what they go like. They're absolutely terrifying to watch go around. And I will take a video next time.
Dennis, Fred Hood came to our race last week at Motown, and he had one of his F1 Eurosports.
Yeah,
and let me drive it. And I hadn't driven a Eurosport car in probably 25 years, and it was, I mean, it's a F1 Eurosport, so it's not the fastest of the Eurosports, but it was crazy fast on 40 feet.
The F1s are the most difficult, I think, of all of them to run. The 132nd scale Eurosport, the Can-Am style one, to me, those are the most fun. And then the 124th Euros, like Chris said, are just insane in terms of speed. But yeah, Chris, that looks like a nice series. When's the next one? Are they running it once a month or once every second month?
No, probably not. We'd like to get a few of the guys from the States come up. George said he'd like to come up again, and a few other guys, but I would say probably early in the new year at this stage.
Except that it's freaking cold up there that time of the year.
Jesus, I was up at our, right now, it's 17 degrees.
And he's wearing shorts.
That's not too bad.
No.
Celsius, right?
Hmm?
17 degrees Celsius, right?
Right. The whole rest of the world's on the metric scale. It's only one country in the world that still uses that imperial temperature.
Yeah.
Millimeters. I still have
The guys who put a man on the moon, yeah.
Yeah.
I know it's not cold, but it's not. It's only 9 here. It's just wear a coat weather.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the next week for us is probably an average about 16 or 17. So
that's pretty good.
65 degrees, 68 degrees.
Yeah.
So, and the place is heated. So if you do want to come up, it'll be fun.
I've actually been thinking about it, I must admit.
Yeah, it was a good race. The Eurosports are not going to be as popular, obviously. We're going to run a flexi class, which is a lot easier for a lot of guys to get into and manage the speed and manage the costs and all the rest of the stuff. So that'll be a more popular series. The Eurosports are, costly.
Yeah, and you're not running a GT12 or something like that in between the two? Okay.
Not yet.
I seem to remember there were 2 classes of flexis that you were running.
Yeah, there's basically there was a flexi with a pretty much a stock motor in it, like a 4002 Pro Slot, and then there was one with a little bit stronger motor in it. We called it, I think we called it Pro 24 or something like that he's calling the series. So that's a little more involved. We also have, bizarrely enough, we have a flexi chassis with that Piranha 25K Neo magnet motor, the S-can motor in it.
Another one.
And those go around just fine.
I can imagine.
And they're, $12 motors. So guys can, and that motor in that chassis with sponge tires is pretty manageable for guys who have never raced. It's not a huge step up, and the cars handle so well that I think we'll get a lot of guys going in that. But the Eurosports are, as you know, it's nuts.
Lovely.
Yeah, it was funny. We forgot. George was doing well. But just for the guys on these we run, it's a 6-lane track, and we ran 4-minute heats. And George Russell started the race, and he probably had about 15 to 20 minutes on the motor brushes in the motor. And he forgot to change them. So halfway through the race of another 20 minutes, the motor brushes and the motor were completely gone. So his motor coughed. So, it's maintenance, cost. And not fun. It's not, you can have fun. You can have guys over to your track in 30-second scale, and you can have a beer, and you can watch the cars go around and have fun. There's no bloody way in hell I would be giving out loaner Eurosport 24th guys to have a beer.
How long is a motor brush when it starts its life in a motor like that?
Sorry?
How long is a motor brush when you put a new one in and bed it in? And
you'll get through the race 30 minutes, 35, 40 minutes.
But he's talking about in length in millimeters. They're about 8 millimeters long, I would think.
Sorry, yeah.
I'm just going to go and
they'll
find
eat
one.
that in 40 minutes.
Motors that turn 200,000 RPM and draw 15 amps, 20 amps. Oh yeah.
Jesus Christ, that's astonishing.
Yeah, and it's not only that, the motor brush springs. You open up a little S-can and there's 2 little flimsy, copper feelers in there, right? the motor springs that we use are like 4 and 5 coil, heavy duty wire springs. They're hard to squeeze them together with your fingers. So they're just jamming the brush against the com, which you need to do at such high RPM to stop them bouncing and arcing.
The closest
And they're
analogy, if you've never driven one of these things, the closest analogy that I could think of would be going from a Formula Ford to a Formula One.
Yeah, they're insanely fast.
All right,
Anyhow,
Dennis,
I will take a video of the next one, and we can all put our glasses on and squint and try and see them go around next time.
Dennis, were you going to show us one of the motors or something?
Yeah. First of all, the brushes, the commutator brushes when they're brand new are like 6 millimeters long. Hang on, just let me get the other camera out. That goes in there. This goes there. And
So that's a fresh, unused brush.
that's a fresh, unused brush. 6 millimeters long.
And there's that's got the curve on the face in the correct direction, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
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 Yeah,
start.
Yes, they are, but at the same time, that curve is a generic curve,
Right.
and
I know. Yeah.
You don't know exactly what the diameter of the commutator is, because after a while you will change you very often have put the armature in a lathe and cut the commutator down to get rid of any eccentricities and burn marks and things like that. So whatever this radius is that's in the end of the brush is immaterial because you're going to break it in anyway.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's a Eurosport, a 1/24 scale Eurosport car. I don't have tires on the back of it, obviously, at the moment, but it's a very
you see, for such a tiny armature, that's quite a large brush. I was thinking that's quite a large brush for such a tiny armature. I mean, it's getting on for the size. It's not quite as big, but it's getting on towards the size of the brushes that I used to use in a 540 sized motor. And
no, they're a lot smaller than that.
Yeah.
They're about half that size. But anyway, yeah, I mean, they are pretty big. I mean, if you look at it, if you look into the back of the motor there, you can see there's a shunt wire. You can see,
I can see it over the brush hood and down the slot.
Yeah. Sometimes I think that the regular camera is going to be better than this one. Hold on a moment, because this just does not.
And then it focuses in on the laptop.
Perfectly. Yeah, perfectly focused on the edge of the laptop.
So there you could see the little kind of these, just there, those little wires that go from the brush in the brush hood up to the top where it connects to the lead wire that goes to the motor. I mean, look at the size of that motor, the tiny thing, right? I'll give you an idea. Just let me grab a 132nd scale motor quickly.
I'm going to throw up a quick picture, Dennis.
Yeah, go for
it. This is your typical S-CAN motor, slotted S-CAN. This is an FF050 motor, and that is a variation of a open.
Yeah, that's one of those. What did they call it? Gullivers,
similar in diameter to FK180 armature, FC130 armature. Are they similar diameters?
Well, it's a bit small. This is like an 8 Joe size. I can't remember the actual diameter on this, but it's
all
tiny.
Of the ones that I have are 0.480 inches, 480 thou. So that's what 8 millimeter.
Yeah.
10, 12 millimeter. But I mean, if you.
So that's pretty well getting on.
I'll get rid of this. But here, Dennis was talking about the shunts. These are the wires that wrap around and tuck into the brush holders. And these are the springs we use, like 5 and 6 coil springs to just absolutely crush the brushes into the comb at that speed. Go, Dennis.
And okay. That's a regular S-can, like a slotted motor. So you can see how much bigger it is than the, it would probably just fit into the back end of this particular frame. This particular frame is built to accommodate Eurosport motors and what are called GT12 or X12 motors, which have the bigger can and magnet setup. Yeah, crazy stuff.
I mean, I think I've seen some videos of the Eurosport cars going around, and yeah, to me they're going
difficult
so fast,
to see.
It might as well be wing cars. They're going so fast.
It's difficult to see them run. Yeah.
Got a question for Chris and Dennis, if I could.
Floor's open.
Do you guys run? I noticed on some of James Cleave's videos that he runs 2 millimeter back axles. Do you run 2 millimeter on those ones there?
Sometimes.
Yeah. And so what was the reason behind the move? Was there more clearance with the motor or something like that, or
no, less weight?
Lighter.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Wayne should have asked that question, shouldn't he?
Yeah.
I hope so. But I knew the answer. It's all to do with rotating masses and just mass.
Yeah.
We used to run 2 millimeter axles at one stage in 132nd scale cars back in the 1970s in South Africa. We had a guy who would find us these 2 millimeter punch pins, and then we would sleeve the gears down and make special wheels and do all of that. But back then, when we were running C-can, big heavy motors, we found that the 2 millimeter axles had a little bit of a whip in them, and the cars would bounce. And the 332nd axle was actually considerably stiffer, even though it's only 0.4 of a millimeter bigger in diameter. But it's a good lot stiffer, and so we went away from them. But on these cars, you can run 2 millimeter because they're so light that you're not getting those kind of forces on it, and the lower weight is advantageous.
Okay.
All right. Well, the floor is open. If you have a slot car related topic or question or anything you want to bring up, now's the time. Otherwise, I can.
I've been busy putting some more of those CG slot cars 3D printed chassis for the Scalextric Trans Am cars. I've built 3 of them now. I think I showed back a couple of weeks back the kit that was going under the Challenger. So they have a kit now for the Challenger. They have one for the 1970 Mustang, and they have one for the 69 Camaro, Chevy Camaro. And I've put together one of each now. They're really nice, and the cars go really well when they're done. There's 1 or 2 little things that you have to think about when you're building them that I've found, and some of that feedback's going back to CG slot cars already to try and upgrade on the motor pod that he's made, which is a really nice little pod because it's very small and compact, which you need for those cars. The little tabs at the rear, where the 2 screws at the rear end attach the pod to the chassis, where those little tabs come out from the main molding of the pod. They're not very strong. They need to be upgraded a little, so you have to be a little careful there. I actually broke some right off, twisting the screws in too quickly. I've had one pod where the holes where those screws go in. The one out of the 4 was just a little too big, and the screws loose in the hole. Other than that, they go together very well. They and the cars work great. So if you're a Trans Am fan and you want cars that run better than the regular Scalex, this is a way to go.
And of course, those are available at Electric Dreams.
Yes, and Slot Car Corner, and probably at Cloverleaf, and I wasn't trying to do. Yeah.
Have tried the
Help.
Cougar?
All right, hold on.
the,
Dewan started, so Dewan, go first.
I was gonna ask, they haven't slated any kits for the 78 Camaros or 79 Camaros, Z28s that recently came off of Skillet. Have they?
No, not yet.
All right, and then I heard Mike next.
Have you tried the Cougar yet?
I don't know that they have. I don't know that they have a kit for the Cougar.
I think so, because I've get. Oh no, that's right. That's an Oliver chassis. Yeah, we had that discussion last week.
All right.
Yeah,
and
the
then
only
Wayne was saying something.
Dennis didn't finish.
I was just going to say that in the Mustang and the Camaro, the chassis have been made so that they will take either the CG slot cars pod or a regular slotted pod, which in the case of the Mustang is a little bit of a problem, because that Mustang, the Scale Electric Mustang, is very narrow, and so the chassis now has had to be. It has more space around the pod to accommodate the wider slotted pod, and therefore there's less chassis between the outside and the wheels. So it's a little flimsy, and I've suggested to Matt at CG Slot Cars that he makes a chassis that will take either pod, and then a chassis that's specifically only for his pod, so that he can strengthen that up a little bit. And just make the chassis a little narrower, but still maintain some strength along there. Because right along the wheels, particularly because I've been using slotted wheels and the 1207 tires, and the tire, of course, is slightly bigger than the rim. And I've had to actually clear away a little on the sides of the chassis, so that when the wheels are under the body at the back, they still clear the chassis on the inside. You really can't get much more than like an 8.5 or a 9mm wide tire under the back of them. But the 69 Camaro, of course, is like an 1/8 of an inch wider again, and there's plenty space. I could show you that if you like.
I couldn't help noticing you in the latest Electric Dreams video showing off the tire truck. Yes,
we got in some more of those new RSM, the RSM 4. The tire truers, and we've been out of tire truers for so long, trying to get anything, because we can't get hoodies, and there's no tire razors, and Professor Motor aren't making any, and we got some TWP ones in from Brazil or Argentina at one stage, but they haven't been as well received as we'd hoped. And so we got some of the RSMs now. It's a nice machine.
Yeah, what that left me wondering was exactly how many of them did you manage to clear out in the week?
That I don't know.
Because I noticed that they were all sold within 24 hours of the video.
That's quite possible. We may not have had more than 8 or 10 of them. I don't know that there were any more than that at the time.
So are Americans paying premium prices to get hold of a hoodie at the moment? Because it sounds like they're rarer than rocking horse poo at the moment.
The only way you could get one, I guess, right now is to buy a used one. There are none available new anywhere that I know of.
If anybody's desperate for one, we've got a couple.
Hoodies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, It's a useful tool, pretty much a requirement
Yeah.
for competitive racing. All right.
So state of affairs is such an essential piece of slot car racing equipment, and no one's really filling the market. There's got to be an opportunity for whoever can manufacture a significant number, surely.
I mean, that's the thing. They've got to bank. They've got to either do it, piecemeal, or they got to bank on being able to sell thousands of units. And who wants to take that risk?
Right.
Well, I was thinking, if you could produce 200 right now, you'd probably be set until through 23. But yeah, thousands is 10 years supply. I don't know what the global market is, but yeah, there's definitely a market for them, isn't there? They're like,
Yeah, but who's going to take a chance on a brand that nobody knows, even though it could be every bit as good as a Hootie? Somebody comes out with brand Z tire truer for same price as a Hootie. They have them available, but I wouldn't take a chance on one not knowing the reputation of the builder.
That's probably why the TWPs didn't sell so well.
Well, actually, he's lying because he bought one. He bought a TWP and he sold it.
You talking about me?
Yeah, didn't you? You told us that you did
Yes.
that, didn't you? You bought the aftermarket, yeah.
So what was wrong with
it's an opportunity right now. Everybody else makes
There was nothing wrong with the TWP, but I ended up getting I wanted to get the Dennis, what do they call it? The indicator or the add-on accessories to it?
Yeah, the Honey
You
Buddy.
can't do that with that, so I ended up buying a Hootie.
Yeah.
I've just actually done some modifications to my Hootie. You might be able to see that the switch. Yeah, I got rid of the rocker switch because those rocker switches are forever getting bits of tire dust inside them, and then they stop working. So I changed it out and I put a regular toggle switch in that has a sealed top, so it's waterproof, and so that allows it's a bit a better thing. But I had to shorten the switch housing so that it's still at the right level, so that the top of the hoodie case will go on. And I used a double throw, double pole switch so that it actually has two. It's on, off, on. So I can run the motor in both directions.
I find that valuable with my RSM. I can reverse the direction I like to do it. That's the one thing that's missing from the RSM, because in my case, the wires just go straight to the motor.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much all of them are that kind of truer. Pretty much, they're all like that.
Mm-hmm. It's an interesting thing to do because particularly when you're grinding rubber tires, I don't think it makes a difference with foam, but when you're grinding rubber, you get a much better finish if you grind it in both directions.
Yeah, I power my
grind
from
grind for a while in one direction, then a while in the other, then just reverse it back and forward. And Jim's thinking, next time I'm down.
I use an old Lionel train transformer that has a polarity switch for direction for the train to power my tire raiser, and being able to just flip that switch, dial the speed in that you want, flip the switch. Yeah.
So if anybody wants an upgraded hoodie, I have a couple of those switches around. So.
Mm-hmm.
Because you had to get like a 4-pack or something in order to get it.
I bought a 10-pack, so well, $10 for 10 switches, kind of thing.
Yeah. Good deal. So if you want to upgrade your hoodie, talk to Dennis. Well, Jim has had his hand up. What would you like to talk about today, Jim?
Well, Dennis, speaking of electric dreams, we have the Enduro coming up, and I forgot about this in show and tell, but the Enduro this year at Electric Dreams is for NSR 4 GTs.
Correct. And he's doing a Mach 2.
Got one last week. I actually have another one coming in today. And so I started building it. And so this is where I am right now. The chassis is further along than the body. But being that I don't like to be ordinary, I'm not going to run a Ford GT, Dennis. And I don't care what Marco is, I'm running it anyway. Back in '66, Mercury got a little jealous, and they ran a couple of, I know they ran one, this one, with Dan Gurney and AJ Foyt badged as a Mercury. So this, I've got the decals coming from decals. So my primary race car will be a Mercury GT, and I'm working on the chassis and everything else. So we've probably got 3 teams now coming from Northern California. So we're gonna give you fits.
That's going to be an interesting race, guys, because it's open entries. Well, I think 16 teams or something like that. But anyway, it's teams of 2 to start with, and then everybody's going to run a 2-hour endurance race as teams of 2, and then the top 6 teams each have to then select from the next 10 best drivers one more driver to add to their team, and then become a 3-man team for the final race, which is a 3-hour enduro.
I like that. I think that's cool.
I think it's cool. I think it's a great idea. Yeah.
So Bob and I are going to defend our championship.
All right.
And we've got Herman, James, and Ian Douglas coming down, which I think is going to be really strong. I personally think they're the favorite. And then obviously Rick Joachim and Walt are going to be strong. So it's going to be a tough one. And then, like you say, the way I understand it, the 6th qualifier gets the first pick of their 3rd driver.
Correct.
And so on. So the top qualifying team will get the last pick of the
3rd driver. Yeah. And that they're allowed to pick out of any of the top, the next top 10 drivers based on individual performance. Yeah. It's going to be quite a good one. Let me go and grab my car. I've got mine ready.
And then the 3-hour enduro will be equal driving stints, I take it.
Yes, it is. Yeah, they're equal driving stints. So, so it's a 3-hour final. So every driver will drive an hour. And which is the same thing they did last year. It was a 2-hour and they split it up half and half, but it was only, they didn't do this extra 3rd person on the team last year, just a straight 2-hour A final.
What are the rules for the cars, Jim?
Pretty stock gearing. It's not like a proxy where you can do a lot of things like that, but open gears, open tires, open chassis. They have to be OEM chassis. So you can see my car had the white stiffer chassis. So most of the things are replaceable and changeable, but no huge modifications.
Yeah, you got to run the stock motor.
It's a spec motor, the 21.9 or
21.5 or whatever it is. Yeah. All right. Guides are open. Tires are open. Wheels are not. You've got to run the original size wheels too.
I was wrong on that. You're right. It's 16 millimeter minimum NSR wheel.
Yeah.
No F1 wheels.
No tape. Weight where you want it. No, weight has got to be the tungsten weights, I think, is all that you're allowed. And that's it. So this is my entry.
Ian came up with an interesting idea, which I don't think is going to happen. I'm pretty sure it's not going to happen. Ford did run the GT open cockpit a few times.
GTX.
And we thought about, why don't we take the top off this car, replicate the real car, and see if it would go through tech. And my guess is no.
I would think no, but it's an interesting concept. I did that with a Polycar Ferrari P4. Took the top off it completely to make up a car that ran in South Africa. It makes a big difference. The cars are a lot quicker than a stock.
And a Polycar
P4.
Ferrari is already fast.
That's already fast, but they're fantastic when you do that. I'll get hold of it and show you.
And are you allowed to replace the interior in those, Jim, or is it stock again?
No, stock interior.
Good.
So here's the car that I'm talking about. This is the Ford GT that won Sebring with Ken Miles as an open cockpit car.
Mhm.
And so we were thinking about trying to replicate this and just taking the top off, because that's all they did. And this is at Sears Point a couple of years ago in a vintage race. They claim there's enough real parts in this car that this is an original car that won Sebring. A lot of people dispute that. But after this race, it was not quite in one piece.
Yeah.
So this is that car that they claim is the Sebring winner that Ken Miles drove with the open cockpit, because it has an original bulkhead and some original parts. Most historians say that it's not an original car. But anyway, that's the story.
If it was me, I'd do two bodies, because if I was the race director and you bought the roof cut off to lower the same, like I would say no.
No, I would say no too, because it does say bodies cannot be modified. So that would be modifying the body in order to replicate a real car. And then everybody would have to do the same thing. So it serves no purpose, I think.
But that's what I did with the Polo car. I used the white kit, and I just cut the roof off it, and cut down the screen. And I mean, you could see what the difference it makes to the car in terms of how high it is.
Yeah, the 4GT not so much, because it's just literally that top portion. It's not the whole top. It's just the top, like a Targa almost.
Looks like the driver's bigger on that car.
I was about to say the same thing.
Same driver, absolutely the same. It's just the perspective of it. That's the same interior. Everything's the same. Just the perspective that makes it look that way.
Can you give us an idea, Dennis, about the qualitative difference in the way that they drive, or even the way that the lap times that they can achieve?
On my track, I would say that the roofless one is maybe half a tenth quicker. It just feels a little more solid in the turns, and they've got the same. They have exactly the same tires, the same gearing, the same motors, everything, the same weight, and it just feels just that little bit. Just that little bit. It feels a little quicker, but it could as easily have been the motor. But I think in the turns you can feel that it's just a little more sure-footed.
You're probably taking 2 or 3 or 4 grams off dead weight off.
Probably. The top of I don't know. I haven't. I need to weigh them. There's the Camaro that has the the CG slot cars kit inside it. You can see how much space there is between the rear wheel and the chassis on that, as opposed to the Mustang, right? Which is particularly this side, right up close to get them underneath. But there's so much space around the pod that could be, you could collapse that part of the chassis in and give it a little bit more clearance at the back. And then
is that pod a stiff enough pod to use consider as an alternative to a slotted then?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a very nice pod. It has it's a 5-degree angle winder. The motors fit in really nice. They have 2 screws to hold it in. That's something that you have to watch a little bit, because when you put the screws in, the screw that's at the back end next to the gear is put in with the boss to the inside rather than the boss to the outside. And so you have to watch the clearance between the set screw that's in the gear and the head of the screw that's holding the motor in. I had to actually cut down the set screw in the gear a little bit so that they clear. And then the only other thing that you have to watch when you put the whole thing together is on this end, on the can end of the motor, once it's all bolted in, when you put the bushing, the axle bushing in that side, you need to just chamfer the edge of the bushing a little, because it's right up against the motor. And if you don't, it doesn't go in quite straight, and you don't get a decent free running free running axle. But once you do that, the rear end is very, very nice because it has regular bushings like an NSR or something like that that he's had made somewhere, and they fit in, and then there's a little clamp that goes over the top of them that's held down by 2 screws, so that it actually physically holds the bushings in place.
Doesn't sound like these chassis are for newbies.
No, but it's not big
I
deals,
don't know.
Frank.
Michael's
It's quite
got
easy. What's that?
That is the inline CG chassis that has adjustable rear axle height.
Oh,
Horrible.
You can
That's
see
a
that.
minefield, isn't it?
Yep,
and that's
it is.
and that's a CG slot car spot.
Yeah.
Wow, didn't know that.
Let me double check.
Make sure it's not Oliver.
Oh, no, it's an Oliver. I did it again.
Doesn't the CG
Good
slot
try,
cars
Mike.
part little twisty bit in the front end of it where the
Yes.
2 front screws have got a little connection in the middle?
Yes. Let me open one up and I'll show you. Hold on.
Is that why your
Yeah,
hands up,
sorry
Mike?
if I threw everybody off the scent there. It is peculiar because it's got a single central pivot, even though it's got 4 screws.
I always have to walk away to get to my screwdrivers and things. Take the screws out of the camera.
Did you have a new
I've
topic?
actually
Ron?
found the Oliver pods to be pretty bendy. They're not very stiff at all.
Well, the CG slot cars ones are made with this SLS system, so they're much stiffer. All right.
Isn't Oliver
There you
printed
can
on
probably
SLS too?
you'll probably see it now. I have the wires right down the middle of the car, but the front end of the pod has this molding in it, right, where it's attached right in the center here, and then it branches out left and right to where the screws are. And so there is a
Dennis
bit of
did say it's a nice little pod, and for a moment there, I thought it wasn't going to have the correct screw spacing to replace a slot it, but it's actually the same size.
yeah, it's the same size at where the screws are, but the rest of the pod is a little smaller.
It looks very neat, and when I saw it online, I was very impressed. And I can see that the back of the motor's also got support. It's not just the screws at the front.
Yeah. The back of the motor fits into it, molded right over the top almost. Although once you have the screws, once you have the screws tightened up, then there's a little bit of clearance at the back of the motor on some motors. But yeah, it's very nice. It's nicely done.
So long as the motor mounting face is nice and vertical, then you don't actually need a support at the other end.
Yeah.
It's just nice to have it.
And that's there you can see that little brace that goes over the top, and it has little 2 screws that hold it in, and it hooks under 2 little slots in the pod, and it has 2 little protrusions on the bottom of the brace that press down on the bushings.
And could you imagine a way to get ball bearing races into that?
I think it would just take a regular 3/16 ball bearing, just straight in from the outside. I would just glue them in.
That is a viable option, that pod, then, if it's stiff enough, as you say.
I think it is. Especially once you've got it screwed in.
And do we know whether the pod is available as a single unit, or is it only available with the chassis kit?
I'm not sure, Wayne, but I would expect that at some point you'll make them available as spare parts. I know he was sending us some spare pods, based on the fact that we had a bit of a problem with the ears on the first ones, but he may at some stage do that. I'll check. I don't know at this point.
Alrighty, sounds like we're, oh, Mike's holding up a pod again.
Yeah, that's the
That's the
CG
pod.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
pod.
So there's a screw holding that little T-shaped thing on that you can adjust.
No,
No,
it's all
just
part of the,
torsion.
It's
part of the
molded.
molding.
Okay, so it's just the torsion of that plastic that gives you the
Correct.
flow. Okay.
Yeah.
In fact, that Y-shaped piece at the front is effectively an anti-roll bar. It's a spring in reality, and that works like an anti-roll bar.
Yeah, as long as you got
Or
the-
chassis
the-
flex, yeah.
as long as the rear screws are looser than the front screws, it will
Mhm.
flex. If they're all the same, it probably won't.
Alrighty, Dewan has got his hand up. What would you like to talk about, Dewan?
I just had a couple of questions on improving some performance. As you guys know, those cars I showed earlier, the Racer X and Speed Racer,
Mhm.
they're novelty cars, and they were built on the HR chassis. But my plastic track, those tires were just, I mean, they were just, I need some suggestions on better getting the tires, a better tire to work with my type of track, I guess, because it
Okay,
was
so those were HRS chassis, right? The slotted ones.
yes.
Yeah, so you could if you want to run rubber, you could run 1172 G25, or if you wanted to run silicone, you could run a super tire 14. Or what would it be, about a 1409? And if you wanted to run a quick slick, it would be a CA. No, it would be a CB. Oh, I don't remember the number now.
I can't imagine you remembering all this. This is crazy.
I use them a lot, right? That's the difference. And particularly the slotted tires, I've used them for so long, I know the numbers off
Yeah, for real.
the top of my head.
Okay. So that was my first question. I definitely want to do something to kind of make that a little better. The other thing is, I know that Slotted supposedly has a lot of spare parts for their cars, and in my case, I have a couple that I need to have some replacement parts for. My Chaparral, she's lost its
lost part of its wing.
Yes, that's the first one, and then the matching one, the screen. I just have to glue that back on the windshield on this one, as well as the
Yeah, if you
wing.
go onto the Electric Dreams website and you look under parts and you look under slotted parts, you'll find them there. You'll find
Great.
the clear parts. You'll find the wings. It's all there.
Great, that's what I love to do. Okay, I'm gonna do that.
And I mean, you could also go onto the slotted website, their own website.
Yeah, but that's so hard.
And look at the online catalog and find the part number.
I have a tough time going to slot and finding anything that I really, really want. I don't know, maybe this is me.
Okay. Yeah, but on the Electric Dreams website, if you look under parts, under slotted parts, you'll find all of that stuff.
Excellent, that's what I needed. Okay, that's it.
All right, then I guess Big Den's next.
Yeah, just looking on one of our local stockists, so about the only one in Australia that carries a good range of CG, and he's stocking the Sidewinder and the Anglewinder CG pods with the little ears on the front. He's sold out of the Sidewinder ones already, and I don't reckon they've been out all that long. And I think the original kit was the Barracuda, wasn't it, Dennis? So the SCX Galaxy Barracuda they made a kit for.
Yeah, they started with the Barracuda, and then he's followed up with the Mustang and the Camaro.
Yeah,
and I'm pretty sure there will be more, because I think they've been very well received.
Yeah.
Certainly, I hope there'll be more. I've got lots of Trans Am cars to convert.
Yeah, for real. Yeah.
And I was just going to make a smart ass little comment about those variations on the bodies used for your enduro down in at Electric Dreams. just as long as nobody lets the genie out of the bottle.
Oh, okay.
That's only in Can-Am.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yes, jokes
Yeah,
out.
that-
You're all done then, Big Dan. What were you gonna
What
say?
would be
Dennis?
not, what would be
No, I'm
nice
done.
if Marco next year's allows those CG chassis to be used in the Trans Am class.
Oh, I think if there would have to be they would have to run in a separate class because there's no way that there's no way that the stock Pioneer or Scalex cars will get anywhere close to those.
No way. Exactly. But it would be a fun class, I think, with the CG.
I think it would be a fun class to run them like that. So maybe you could split the Trans Am class into a stock and a modified or something like that. Let the guys run the stock stuff.
This weekend is Electric Dreams monthly race, and we're racing Group 5 and the Can-Am stock.
No, the Trans Am. Yeah.
What did I say?
Can-Am.
Sorry, Trans Am.
Trans Ams and Group 5s. Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you be there? Are you coming down?
I'm planning on it. Yes.
Good. Be good to see you. Haven't seen you for a while.
Nope.
Yeah, I'll be there.
It'll be good to see the F1 tires go away next year.
Uh-huh.
I hate those things.
Well, on F1s they're okay.
Yeah. Exactly. They don't look right. It's silly.
Is that a done deal?
No.
We're no more F1 tires?
It's not a done deal that it's changing. I don't know what's going to happen.
No.
I don't have final say on the rules of the classes at Electric Dreams, I'm afraid.
Yeah, but based
I don't
on
even have an initial say. I don't have a second say. I certainly don't have a final say.
Based on the rules for the Enduro, though. Based on the rules for the Enduro, though, I don't think you'll be able to run the F1 13 millimeter rims on a GTE or a Can-Am or a whatever. At least I hope that's what he does next year.
We'll see.
I mean, wasn't it just the new Jaguar that could even run the F1 wheels to begin with?
Oh, no.
No, we run them on all the
Jaguar was the
Can-Am
only one that
cars.
could run them. The Jaguar was the only one that could run them full width.
Oh, the full width of the tire. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But all the Group C cars, there was a variety of them other than in the final.
Yeah.
That was the main reason for running the F1 tires was to get that extra width, right?
Yes,
No,
it
it's
was.
the diameter. Primarily the diameter.
Diameter.
Get the cars very, very low.
Right.
I mean, we could get rid of a lot of the problems just by specifying a ground clearance.
So imagine trying to run a 16.5 millimeter rubber tire on a 16.0 rim. You can't do it.
Right.
But you can do it on a 13 millimeter rim.
The other nice thing about running the Formula One rim, we banned them at Ernie's track in 2006. Everybody was running them back then, and one of the nice handling things is for any given OD, the smaller diameter wheel gives you more compression in the tire and softens up the tire. So if you're running really low, what looks correct, which is a 16 or 16.5-inch wheel with a low profile tire, there's no compression in the tire. So if you go to the smaller hubs, larger sidewall, the grip increases immeasurably.
Exactly.
And it doesn't look good, and I agree with it. Like it's, when we started running those in end of 2006, the first few guys who ran them would just run away from everybody else. And then when we banned them and decided the car should actually look somewhat like cars, everybody was on an equal playing field, and it was fine.
Yeah, Chris is exactly right. That's the reason we went to it, was the diameter of the wheel, not the width.
Yeah, look at that. It does look
Well,
kind of
just-
go-kartish, doesn't it?
Classic slip up in the rule making process, and it's a rare occurrence to have the tiny wheels.
Uh-huh.
That
But
reminds me
once
of
one
the,
person starts it, everybody does it. I wasn't going to, and you got to do the,
Is Group 5 open wheels down there?
Yeah,
yeah,
still.
yeah.
Mhm.
These are the two cars hopefully one of them will work halfway decent on Saturday.
But when you get to the Group 5 cars, you've got one other thing to consider, and that is that you have multiple offsets that you could put into the pod.
Right.
And if you run the 1 millimeter offset in the pod, it's going to be a struggle to use 16.5 millimeter wheels.
Exactly.
I'm convinced there is a case for a bigger offset motor pod, 1.5, 1.25, probably. I reckon you could produce both and they would sell.
That's too much.
I don't know. Probably not wrong.
It may be for wood track racing, Frank, but when we are forced to run no gluing of the tires, that means that we can't get away with even a 15.8 wheel.
Right.
Because the tire will roll off.
Exactly.
I've never seen it happen, let's put it this way, but no one uses that diameter of wheel in the classes that I tend to frequent anyway.
And we probably won't anymore either. Because it says any rubber tire. So once somebody looked at the F1 tires and went, that's rubber. Didn't say anything about the diameter. So we're going to run them. So now we're all running. But now I have some F1 tires though for my NSR F1.
That's interesting because we're adding a GT3 class up here next year for Modesto, and it's going to be NSR and Scale Auto and the Racer Sideways. Any of those will be legal. And we are going to, it's not set in stone yet because we're still working on the rules, but it looks like we are going to allow the 13 millimeter F1 wheels in the GT3 class for a couple of reasons. One, they do work better. They don't look good, granted, but that allows the shop owner to only carry, because he carries pre-mounts for a lot of the newer racers, and he can carry one pre-mount for both the F1 cars and the GT3 cars.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Business reason, yeah.
Yeah, so there's all kinds of reasons, but to me, the weirdest thing about it is if you don't cut the front tires down, and the front tires are bigger than the rear tires aesthetically. That's
exactly.
It's kind of crazy.
I mean, when you're running the 1 millimeter offset pod, you could get away with quite a big-ish. That's a 16 mil wheel that's on the back of that, and it's low, and it's probably only got under the chassis. It's about 30 thousandths right now. I'm actually going to go looking for the wheel inserts for this one because I would prefer to run it with them in.
Right, it would look better.
Mm-hmm.
Now you want me to get in my car and come down there this weekend? Looks like fun.
NSR.
No, it's sideways. It's sideways,
Oh, that's
but it's
sideways. I'm sorry.
It's got the new sideways hard pod in it.
So you're
sideways
not. That's for Saturday.
Yeah.
Cool.
Sideways have brought out a new pod, which is a hard plastic red pod, which I just put in. So this is for Saturday.
Have you?
Are all the sideways pods red, Dennis, or are there some black ones too?
No, the regular ones are all black. The red ones are a new hard plastic that's harder than the stock one.
Oh, I didn't know there was. I didn't know there was a black one like that. I thought they always.
They've all been black up until now, but they've just come out with the hard pod. They still don't have harder chassis than the stock one. They have softer chassis, but not harder ones.
Dennis, have you noticed what a lot of us are doing with?
I thought that I'd done the same. Yeah, I've done the same.
Yeah, and it's interesting. You get into
what am
some
I
of
not
the older
seeing?
chassis, and it's kind of interesting because some of the older chassis, the arm that goes out is permanently attached, but you still can do that with them because they come with an adapter.
You're talking. Oh, hang on. Turn your car up again. I thought that I was looking.
We're gonna race Group 5 soon, so I want to know what you're talking about.
All right.
Okay.
So what Frank has done there is he's using all 6 of the pod screws. He's put the There's an adapter at the front that allows you to use 2 screws instead of 1. And
Right.
then you have the 2 at the back, and then there are the 2 outriggers on the sides.
Mhm.
And some guys like to use all of those. Some guys don't. I'm one that don't. I have my one is set up with just the 2 at the rear and the single mount at the front.
Yeah.
Uh,
And this one is, I don't have the 2 side ones in, but if
Yeah.
you notice in the area right here, there's no bar, and this one has a bar.
Mhm.
Believe it or
Yeah, I was
not,
about to mention it.
in my race, I had no idea what these little parts were for until this race. In my raceway parts bag, I had an adapter. No, there's no screw in the front on that arm, but it fit underneath the arm and still was able to do it this way.
Really? I must check that out.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, the other interesting thing is, of course, we've all mounted the motors with the hole downwards. The air hole in the motor, because those motors are closed on one side and open on the
Oh,
other.
that's right, huh?
So you always want to mount them with the
Exactly.
open side down, because it's magnetic brake on the track.
And then there's even a third pod that a friend of mine found that was solid with no holes to do the extra. You had to use the one in the front.
Oh.
It was all solid. There were no holes to add the adapter.
Some of the earlier ones may be like that, and the earlier pods were not very good. The later pods were a lot better, where the axle is at the back, because the earlier pods chattered like crazy. The later ones are a lot better.
And they changed the way the motor is mounted as well to get them more solid.
Really solid. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Cool.
It's going to be fun no matter what.
I'll have a look at that. Thanks.
I've been looking for a Racer Sideways webpage and I can't find one. Does anyone know if they have one anywhere?
Ooh, interesting. I've never seen
I
one.
don't know that it's
The only
good.
presence I can find that's official is on a Facebook page.
Yes, I think you're right.
I think you are right.
I was looking around for technical information about wheelbases, roof heights, all the stuff you would typically get in a slotted.
Like slotted Revo.
Yeah, and I can't find it. And I was looking for it. I was looking for a website to find it on. Couldn't find it. I found some information. I found a particular retailer that does like to include that information, but I've also found that on certain cars in certain circumstances, that information can be inaccurate. So you take it with a pinch of salt.
Well, it's just like when the Revo slot Ford Escort came out, their information from Revo slot was a 9-tooth pinion.
And the cars all had 12s on.
All had 12s in them. It was so funny. And then and drivers and navigators are drunk. Mine aren't anymore. I took mine apart and they look through the windshield now instead of at their feet. But yeah, Revo Slot's quality control over there in China is oh well, I won't make any comment. We all know it. We buy them anyway and we fix them.
Yeah, we do.
And we still like them.
Yep. And the new I want to call them classics. They call them Group 2 cars, the Giulia and the Escort, and pretty soon the Duke. They are a kick.
They're lovely. I love them.
Kick.
Yep.
Yeah,
They're great.
fun. In fact, Far Out has with Stephen Farr Jones, that's our new class for next year. Are those cars? So that's going to be a blast.
Yep, I finally got my my home track is still covered with crap, so I only got to run my new Revo Group 2. I forget Alpha? No, whatever.
Which one did you get?
The blue and yellow.
Alpha or Esco, one of the two.
Yeah, definitely not the Escort. So it's the Alpha. Yeah, ran that around Wood Track on Monday, and it hadn't done
You know,
anything to it.
glass.
Didn't even chew the tires or anything. But yeah, it was,
No, you don't have to.
Yeah.
They're fun.
just need some track time.
And you know, good old Harry Wise, he's out there with his is it Quick Slicks he uses? He has to put his urethanes on his car. And
oh, urethane, so it'll be PG, full gauge tire.
PG, you're right. And but that's what he runs on his track.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, and they've already made them for that car. They don't waste any time, which is good for those folks who run that. We don't. We go rubber, OEM rubber only.
Revo slots are some of the closest to ready to race right out of the box that I've seen.
That's true.
Well, if you're lucky to get one that's
straight and flat.
Yeah. You still need to take them all apart and my 124th BR. You're talking Revo slot. Yeah, Revo slot BRMs they need a lot of work, but the Revo slots, you're right. On a couple of them, I just shave off the bodies a little bit because the chassis were hitting them, so it made the noise even noisier. And once I shaved the bodies a little bit to keep the chassis from hitting them, they quieted down and ran better.
You know, I put my Revo slot chassis on the NSR flattener and it didn't do a damn thing.
Nice. Just got warm.
You need to put it on manual mode. Don't use auto mode. Use manual mode.
It was on manual mode for 36 hours and it still did not do anything.
Except burn your fingers when you took it off, right?
What a newbie. He can make grilled cheese sandwiches with it after he took it off.
Yeah. Sorry.
You
not fix that one.
You just made Mike Myers want to buy one of those.
Those NSR, I don't have one, but a friend of mine does. They work really, really well.
On NSR chassis.
On NSR chassis.
On slotted too. I had a slot. It was really screwed up.
I've done 6 slotted chassis on an NSR, and they either burn / melt or don't flatten.
Really?
So I've had very poor experience with that on slotted chassis. Obviously, your mileage may vary. Works awesome on NSR chassis, which is why I haven't done a video on it. I have Marco's machine, actually. I got to bring it back. I was going to do a video on it. And I didn't want to do a video on something that I said, this just flat doesn't work.
Right.
But
yeah,
I've had very little.
That's too
very
bad.
poor experience with it with slotted chassis.
Well,
if you put it on the automatic mode, it didn't do anything. If you put it on the manual mode, by the time you got it hot enough to do something, it melted.
Yeah.
I
mean,
anyone try to race?
You know, they designed it for their chassis, so
yeah. Well, if it had a thermostat, and well, the manual mode just keeps going hotter. If they had a thermostat on it, so you could find the right temperature, it would probably work fine. And the automatic mode has a thermostat for their plastic.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
It's about 120 degrees, I think. I've got a really cheap temperature gauge, but it's in the neighborhood of 120 degrees, and it just stays there for 45 minutes, and it works awesome on NSR chassis.
Yeah, if they had some kind of rheostat and a readout for temperature, that would make it universal.
In the manual mode, within about 20 or 30 minutes, it was up to 200 degrees, and then by that time, it didn't. At 200 degrees, the slotted chassis is going to melt. And it needs to be
Slotted mechanism is a below 100 degree. It's like let the water cool for 30 seconds and then pour it near.
Yeah.
Not on.
I'm guessing the slotted chassis probably wants 150 degrees or so.
Well, remember, one of you is talking Fahrenheit, one's talking.
Yeah, you're talking different numbers, guys.
Well, that's true. I'm talking Fahrenheit because I'm in that country that had the man to the moon. But
I'm talking about the boiling point of water.
Well, how my friend did it is he put it on there, and I believe it was automatic mode for an hour and a half, and shut it down, and then left it alone overnight, and then the next morning it was straighter than it was before.
Well, okay, I will agree with that. When I put the slotted chassis, I left it on for a couple hours, and it was better, but it was not flat. So that's obviously everybody's experience is different. That's my experience.
Yeah.
All right.
Is the NSR a metallic top is in aluminium or is it steel? Could you use magnets on it or not?
NSR,
Yeah, you have to use magnets on it.
Yeah, it's steel. So you have to use magnets.
Sorry,
it comes with magnets.
You actually plug it down. Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna hit the stop button, but we'll keep chatting. Everybody, bye till next week. Bye.
Bye.